There is something nobody told you about women who enter a room and change the air temperature. They don't announce themselves. They don't ask for attention. They don't wear their worth on the surface like a price tag waiting to be read. And yet, every single person in that room feels them, feels the weight of their presence, the particular gravity of a woman who has learned the most dangerous truth in the world of feminine power, that the loudest thing about her is her silence. You've been told maybe your whole life that more is more, that visibility is power, that to be seen you must shine brighter, speak louder, dress more boldly, post more, perform more, prove more. And somewhere inside you, in that quiet place underneath all the noise you've been making just to be noticed, you already suspected that something about that equation was deeply, fundamentally wrong. What if everything you were taught about feminine power was backwards? What if the woman who commands the most devotion, the most respect, the most genuine fascination from the people around her is not the woman who reveals everything, but the one who reveals almost nothing? What if the most sophisticated form of beauty is not decoration, but restraint, not loudness, but depth, not performance, but presence? This is not a conversation about fashion, though it will change how you see a perfectly tailored coat. This is not a conversation about etiquette, though it will transform the way you walk into a room. This is a conversation about something far older and far more primal, about the architecture of feminine magnetism, and why the women who understand quiet luxury understand something profound about the human psyche that most people never discover. Let me ask you something personal. Think about the last time you tried too hard. Maybe it was a relationship where you gave everything, and the more you gave, the less he seemed to value it. Maybe it was a social situation where you laughed a little too loudly, agreed a little too readily, tried to be a little too perfect, and somehow, the harder you tried, the more invisible you became. Do you remember that feeling? That particular exhaustion of performing yourself for an audience that kept moving the finish line? That ache you felt, that knot in the sternum, that low hum of anxiety that lives somewhere between your throat and your chest. That wasn't weakness. That was your nervous system sending you a message in the only language it knows. Something is misaligned. Something about the way you are presenting yourself to the world is costing you more than it is giving you. And here is where the science becomes mercy.
Psychologists who study attachment theory, the framework that maps how human beings form bonds of love, loyalty, and longing, discovered something that sounds almost cruel when you first hear it, but becomes deeply liberating the moment you understand it. We are neurologically wired to be more fascinated by what we cannot fully access than by what is entirely available to us. This is not a flaw in human design. It is a feature. It is the brain's ancient algorithm for determining value, because in nature, anything that is effortlessly obtained is rarely precious, and anything that requires patience, attention, and earned access activates the brain's deepest reward systems. The psychologist Bluma Zygarnik discovered in the 1920s that the human mind holds unfinished things with far more intensity than completed ones. Her research showed that we remember interrupted tasks nearly twice as well as completed tasks, that the brain essentially refuses to release something it hasn't fully resolved. This is why a melody that stops one note before the final chord haunts you. This is why a person who never quite reveals everything about themselves becomes, without trying, unforgettable. This is the first secret of silent luxury. Incompleteness is not inadequacy, it is intrigue, and intrigue is the beginning of fascination. Now, close your eyes for a moment. Not literally, you're narrating this to yourself. But imagine two women walking into the same event. The first woman is wearing everything at once. The bold pattern, the statement jewelry, the perfume that arrives before she does, the laugh that fills the room, the story she needs you to know about herself immediately. She is generous with herself, entirely available. You can read her in 3 minutes. The second woman is wearing something simple,
a color so precisely right for her that it looks like it was chosen by someone who has spent decades understanding their own body. Her jewelry, if she wears any, is one deliberate thing, chosen, not accumulated. She moves with urgency. When she speaks, it is because she has something worth saying. When she listens so completely that the person speaking feels, suddenly, like the most interesting person in the world. She does not tell you everything about herself. She does not need to. She leaves something, a question, a depth, a doorway that you cannot stop wanting to walk through. Which woman do you remember the next day? Neuroscience has a word for what the second woman is doing to your brain. She is activating your dopaminergic system, the same neural pathways that govern reward, anticipation, and desire. When something is completely predictable, your brain categorizes it and moves on. But when something is precisely beautiful and slightly mysterious, your brain enters a state of engaged seeking. It leans forward, it pays attention, it remembers. This is not manipulation. This is not a performance of mystery. This is the organic result of a woman who has done the internal work, who has stopped outsourcing her sense of value to external validation, and started building something far more sustainable, an inner architecture of self-possession. Think of it this way. Every woman carries within her what I want you to imagine as an inner garden, not a public park, not a space designed for visitors, maintained for approval, changed seasonally to suit whatever is fashionable. A private garden, walled, curated over years, filled with the things that genuinely move her real tastes, her earned convictions, her particular way of seeing beauty in the world. The garden has a gate, and the woman who understands silent luxury has learned something essential. Not everyone gets to come in. Not every conversation deserves her full bloom. Not every relationship earns her depth. The invitation to her inner garden is given slowly, carefully, joyfully, because she is not withholding herself from cruelty or from fear. She is protecting herself from dilution. She understands that a woman who gives everyone access to everything she is becomes, over time, depleted, eroded. She has been so entirely available that she has made herself ordinary in the very act of trying to be loved. But the woman who tends her inner garden with discipline and devotion, who decides consciously what she reveals and when, what she wears and why, how she speaks and with what degree of restraint, this woman does something extraordinary to the people around her. She makes them want to know her, really know her. Not the curated performance, not the highlight reel. Her, the actual, layered, complex, beautiful her. And that desire, that genuine human longing to access the depth of a woman who is clearly, evidently, entirely at home in herself, that is the most powerful form of attraction that exists. And now let's talk about the external language of this internal state, because quiet luxury is not just an interior philosophy. It has a physical vocabulary, and that vocabulary is worth learning. The women across history who have been most enduringly fascinating, women whose influence outlasted empires, whose style is still referenced centuries later, whose names are synonymous with a particular quality of grace, they shared almost none of the trends of their times. What they shared was something more elemental, an absolute clarity about who they were, expressed through relentless restraint. Coco Chanel removed the excess. Audrey Hepburn chose the single element. Jacqueline Kennedy wore the same silhouettes so consistently that the silhouette eventually became her. They were not minimalists by accident. They were minimalists because they understood something deeply psychological. When you remove the noise, what remains is signal, and signal, a clear, unambiguous signal, is what the human brain responds to with reverence. Quiet luxury in the physical sense is not about poverty of choice. It is about sovereignty of choice.
It is the difference between a woman who wears 10 things because she couldn't decide, and a woman who wears one thing because she has already decided, completely, finally, without apology, who she is. It is fabric that has a weight to it, a color that was chosen for its precision, not its performance, a shoe that fits so well it looks like a second skin, perfume that doesn't announce itself but reveals itself, slowly, privately, only to those who come close enough to deserve it. Every element of this aesthetic speaks the same sentence to the unconscious mind of everyone in the room. This woman knows herself. And a woman who knows herself is neurologically the most compelling person in any environment, because self-knowledge is rare, and the brain recognizes rarity with the same reverence it gives to diamonds and deep water. There is something I need you to understand about the power of absence, because it is perhaps the most misunderstood element of feminine magnetism. We live in a culture that tells us that visibility is survival, that if you are not constantly present, constantly posting, constantly proving that you exist and matter and are thriving, you will be forgotten, you will become irrelevant, you will disappear. But watch what actually happens when a woman who has been entirely available suddenly becomes selective with her presence. Watch what happens when she steps back, not in retreat, not in defeat, but in the full, deliberate sovereignty of a woman who has decided that her energy is precious and she will spend it accordingly. The room notices the absence. The phone calls increase. The questions begin. The fascination, which was dormant, flattened by the predictability of constant availability, suddenly reactivates. This is not a strategy. This is not a game. This is the simple, profound neurological truth of what happens when you stop making yourself ordinary by making yourself entirely accessible. The Zygarnik effect activates in every mind around you. You become the unresolved melody, the opened question, the garden with the gate. And here is where I need to speak to you directly, to you specifically, who have been exhausting yourself trying to be enough in a world that kept telling you to be more, who colored yourself louder when the room didn't notice you, and performed yourself wider when the relationship didn't deepen, and gave more when the giving didn't fill you, because you thought that the problem was your volume. You thought if you could just turn yourself up enough, you would finally be seen. The problem was never your volume. The problem was that you were speaking to the wrong frequency. You were broadcasting when you needed to be resonating. You were performing when you needed to be present. You were giving when you needed first to be filled. Neuroplasticity, the brain's lifelong capacity to rewire itself in response to new patterns of thought and behavior, means that every single time you make a different choice, you are literally rebuilding your neural architecture. Every time you choose restraint over reaction, you strengthen the neural pathway of self-possession. Every time you choose quality over quantity, in your words, in your relationships, in the objects you surround yourself with, you train your own brain to recognize your worth as something inherent, not something that must be constantly performed for external validation. This rewiring is not metaphorical, it is physiological, it is measurable. And it means that the decision to begin living as a woman of quiet luxury, to begin tending your inner garden with the same devotion you have been spending on trying to be seen, is not an aesthetic decision, it is a neurological one. You are quite literally choosing to become someone different at the level of your biology. So let this be the moment. Let this be the exhale that you have been holding for years. You do not need to announce yourself. You do not need to prove yourself. You do not need to perform or compete or contort yourself into whatever shape you thought would finally make you enough. The most elegant thing you will ever do is simply become so entirely yourself that the right people, the ones who deserve your garden, who have earned your depth, who are capable of recognizing what they are standing in the presence of, find you. Not because you made yourself visible to everyone, but because you made yourself undeniable to the ones who matter. This is the sovereign truth of silent luxury. It is not a uniform. It is not a price point. It is not a mood board or an aesthetic category.
It is a state of being. It is the quiet, unshakable, deeply felt knowledge that you are not a performance. You are a presence. And presence, real, rooted, unhurried presence, is the rarest and most beautiful thing a woman can offer the world. So now I want you to breathe into these words as if they are the first true things you have heard in a very long time. And I want you to say them, not loudly, not for anyone else, but in the sovereign, unhurried voice of a woman who has finally come home to herself. I am not a performance. I am a presence. I am not available to everyone. I am devoted to what is worthy. I do not shrink to be comfortable, and I do not expand to be seen. I simply am, fully, quietly, uncompromisingly, exactly who I am. I tend my inner garden with love. I open my gate with discernment. I share my depth with those who have earned the privilege. I choose restraint, not from fear, but from the full knowledge of my own value. I move through the world without urgency, because I know that what is truly mine will not require me to chase it. I am the unresolved melody, the doorway with the depth, the woman in the room who changed the temperature of the air, not by demanding to be felt, but simply by being, completely and unhurriedly, herself. I am quiet. I am certain. I am enough. And I always was.